And if he hadn't, emancipation may have not occurred when it did. That's the complication of the issue. Lincoln is seen through the eyes of current historians as a much more realistic and complicated man who grappled with depression and struggled with a series of losses, including his first love, Anne Rutledge, to whom he was engaged but never married, his mother, and 2 young children whom he had with Mary Todd. Lincoln was also a man obsessed with his image, figuratively and quite literally, as at every single speaking engagement that he had, he arranged to have his portrait taken. So we got to watch as Lincoln aged through the beginning of the age of photography. Lincoln was seen as a tyrant by some, as he suspended habeas corpus and permitted unlawful detentions during the Civil War. Dr. Gates was, with every new discovery, taking Lincoln down from the pedestal on which he had placed him as a boy. There's even a saying among presidents in the White House that in order to win, you have to have Lincoln on your side, no matter what side you happen to be on. Dr. Gates comes to believe that each generation reinvents Lincoln to serve their purposes. He says, we remake Lincoln in order to remake ourselves. It is time, he says, to meet the flawed individual rather than the secular saint. As we evolve and become more complex, the stories of our heroes become more complex too. The more information that we uncover, the more detail is filled in. The more realistic the portrait becomes, the more our image of ourselves and our history evolves. And the more we might see ourselves in that image. As I mentioned earlier, there was another bicentennial that was celebrated this week. February 12th was also Charles Darwin's birthday. 200 years later, many Americans are still trying to refute Darwin's main contribution to science, the development of the theory of biological evolution through natural selection. Darwin's contribution to the world was not only his theory of evolution. Through his detailed observations and his travels around the world, Darwin also gave us the gift of reason and observation in scientific thought. And he concluded that we are in fact connected to all of creation, and that we are not a finished product, that we continue to evolve ourselves. So why is it that new paradigms are seen as a threat to some and are embraced by others? Why are there those who prefer to cling to the simplified version when the facts merely enhance our understanding? What we do know about our own evolution is that a long time ago, something changed. Whether it happened gradually over several 100,000 years, as some anthropologists believe, or whether or not it happened quickly in a giant leap forward, as Jared Diamond puts it, we are at least certain of this. Early humans became quite dissatisfied with their circumstances and began to diverge from what was practiced and known. They began to look for new ways, new possibilities. Stone implements gave way to the more easily shaped and versatile bone. Bare cave walls were brought to life with paintings. Adorning jewelry was carefully fashioned from ordinary objects that had previously been ignored. The notions to plant instead of gather, to breed captive animals rather than hunt took hold. Humans have altered their environments and enhanced their well-being unlike any other life form on the planet. And this unique capacity to diverge from what is, to adapt to our own history, to dream impossibility, is God-given, in my opinion. It helps us to create something which has never before existed, and it resides solely within the domain of humanity. The gifts of diverse artistic expression, of societal development and technological innovation all result from the ability to question and to conceive of those things that are beyond what we have in front of us, are beyond the status quo. Like our fictional ancestor Ozzy in that reading this morning. This is a value that I celebrate and that our faith celebrates. To question, to demythologize, to bring our whole selves to church. This magnificent and advanced capability of being able to adapt to our surroundings results not unexpectedly from an evolved and complex brain. If stone was an inadequate tool, then we wouldn't use it. If it was adequate, we would keep it. It's that keep what works and throw out the rest, right? Check it with our experience. Continually check it and see if it's still working. So our ancestors at least had the good sense to continue using something if it worked. But still, there is something special about this desire and pursuit for novel alternatives. See, no other being with which we share the planet demonstrates the human capacity to continually spawn newness. So we are freed by our neurology and by our biology to think outside the box. And I need a faith that makes room for that kind of divergent thinking. And I need a faith that makes room for adaptation when my experience or the facts change. I need room for that in my faith. I need an evolving faith that continues to adhere to those traditions which serve to promote freedom of belief, and that makes room for a diversity of experience. A faith shaped by covenant rather than by creed, that can embrace this ever-changing world while holding on only to what is good and what is true. In that creation parable by Denny O'Neil that was read earlier by Sarah Getty about Ozzy and the snorkelfish, we hear the classic story of fearing change. I'm just late for my nap. Adhering to what has always been at the cost of growth and creativity. It is the classic story of wanting to go beyond what we currently know, to dream impossibility, to redefine and recreate as the facts emerge.